Members of the jury, can you imagine what it must be like to do a job where the office routine continues after work? Few of us would relish such a job, yet some people have to do it, and the civil service is one of these professions, especially that branch of it where the defendant worked. At the level she had reached, the pay is high and the responsibility equally exalted. The self-discipline demanded is exceptional. Still, people who do these jobs know the sacrifices they will be asked to make, and they have to be judged by the standards they have settled for. People who have access to classified documents are in a difficult position. For instance, the temptation to take their documents home is very great. Yet, if they do not keep their private life and their work apart, they are heading into danger. And if they are in danger, so are we. For their actions directly affect the safety of every being in this island. Now, Margaret Turson loved a man from a communist country. Commander Riley has told us that for reasons which you will appreciate have to remain secret, he was suspected of being a spy. Now, whether he was in fact a spy, we cannot at this time be sure. But men in his position are inevitably suspect, and Margaret Turson knew this. Still, he was young, attractive, and plausible, and she, who had known sorrow and no doubt loneliness, responded to his charm. He told her that he loved her. He lulled her into a state of trust where she decided not to report her association with him, and grew slack enough to bring home secret documents and leave them in a drawer where he could easily see them. Moreover, the register in her department was checked on only one occasion, so who knows what was in the other documents she admitted bringing home on other days and kept in the flat where he could easily see them. Now, whether the things that were in these documents have been reported elsewhere is entirely beside the point, for in security matters, discipline is absolute. I would remind you of the words of Mr. Barclay, that the reason that a document is classified within the Foreign Office is to denote to people that work in that office that in no circumstances must they disclose its contents or endanger its safety. Now, this is a sad case, but we must not allow sentiment to cloud our judgment. It is the prosecution's submission that Margaret Turson did indeed endanger the safety of documents entrusted to her care. Under the Official Secrets Act, she was bound not to do so. In closing, I would ask you to consider her own words in the light of her professional responsibility. She said, "By the time Herr Müller began to come to my flat, I trusted him. I know he was not a spy. To have taken precautions in case he might be would have seemed to me cheap and dishonest. I ask you, members of the jury, would it have been dishonest to take the simplest of precautions with regard to a man, however agreeable, who was the representative of a potentially hostile foreign power? What harm could she possibly do, Herr Müller, by taking these precautions? What untold harm might she do her country by neglecting them?"
Please note, members of the jury. The prosecution state that the only possible reason for Hans Müller's association with Miss Turson is a sinister one, namely that he's a spy. And this assertion by my learned friend is based upon the evidence of Commander Riley. He's told us that civil servants, when they become friendly with communists, are reminded of the possible hazards involved. Was the accused. He also tells us that many civil service employees take documents home with them. When this is brought to the attention of the security department, they're told to stop. Now, these employees are not automatically charged with offences under the Official Secrets Act. And thus, they are not inevitably regarded as having endangered the documents. Now, why was it that Miss Turson, after 18 years of unblemished conduct, was not given these same considerations? Well, the commander went on to say, and I quote, "We had reason to believe that Müller was a spy. We were never given evidence to substantiate this accusation. I am not at liberty to say is no substitute for the facts." My learned friend secured permission to recall the commander, and we assumed he would then furnish us with the facts. Why was the commander not recalled? I suggest the obvious. No proof exists. Now, if Hans Müller was believed to be a spy, why was he not detained? Why was he not placed under close surveillance? And he wasn't. It was Miss Turson who was singled out as the target. On September the 10th, Miss Turson left home taking with her classified documents. And following her usual pattern, she locked them up in her desk. Late in the evening of September the 11th, she opened the desk to look for something. A pad to clean the records she and Hans Müller were listening to. Now, members of the jury, If Miss Tesson had those documents for sinister motives, surely she'd have hidden them away when the police knocked at her door. If she was cooperating with a spy, would she have supplied material that was available in a newspaper? Or can you believe that this lady is so inexperienced as to rendezvous with a spy in her flat, not once, but regularly? My learned friend, in summing up now, says that Hans Müller may be a spy. Well, by such reasoning, his lordship may be a spy, but thankfully the law does not recognize maybes. We are innocent until proven guilty. He has also advised you against sentiment, meaning a tendency to be swayed by feeling rather than reason. Well, I put it to you that there's room for both. Your reason will tell you that based on the facts, Miss Tesson is innocent. And your feelings will assure you that her relationship with Hans Müller transcends politics and ideologies, and even countries.
Thank you, Mr. Elliot. Members of the jury, the time has now come for me to sum up, and you will shortly be asked to bring in your verdict. You are the sole judge of the facts in this case, and I must direct you to consider the guilt or innocence of the accused solely in the light of those facts. You must not allow yourselves to be swayed unduly by feelings of pity for Miss Tesson, feelings possibly accentuated by the eloquent appeal of her counsel, and you must be completely sure of the charge which has been made against her. It is quite a simple one, and it is this: that she conducted herself in such a way as to endanger secret documents entrusted to her care. And the prosecution alleged that she allowed an unauthorized person access to these documents. Now, there is no doubt that she did take secret documents to her home and did leave them in a position where her lover, a member of a foreign communist party, might see them. And you may think that although the documents had already been published in a foreign newspaper, that did not alter the fact that they were classified secret, and therefore remained secret for all purposes in this country. And Miss Tesson well knew that, and that it was her duty not to risk publishing them to anyone, least of all to a putative enemy of this country. On the other hand, you may take the view that since the documents had already been published overseas, she was not acting in such a way as to endanger secret documents. But if you do take the view that Müller was interested in these documents, and that Miss Tesson did give him the chance to see them, then you have no option under the law other than to find her guilty. Now, the question of her guilt or innocence is for you to decide, ladies and gentlemen. It is not an easy task, but I leave the judgment of it in your capable hands. And now, will you be good enough to retire to consider your verdict?
Court will rise. All stand. The prisoner will stand. Will the foreman please rise? Members of the jury, will you answer this question, yes or no? Have you reached a verdict upon which you are all agreed?
Yes.
Do you find Margaret Tesson guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Thank you. Will you sit down, please?
Call Inspector Collins. Give Inspector Collins. Inspector Collins, please.
Despite the sympathy felt for Margaret Tesson, Mr. Justice Waddington sentenced her to 18 months' imprisonment. But it will be some time before she'll be able to forget the events of the past few days.